I'm so glad we have this channel up on Menza, right? I think one of the things that we don't have access to ready information. We just probably have to spend hours on Google figuring out what it takes to live and live and work in another country, right? What it means to migrate from there, to the other country, what it means to work there, what's the work culture like, what are the visa requirements, right? And how high are the barriers or how low are the barriers to getting to work in different countries, right? And I think that it's a very important topic. And Achyut, over to you to kind of set this up. And this week we have Dan and Sakshi who are talking about careers in Ireland. Welcome Arj also to the circle. And Achyut, do you want
Right. Hey, thanks, Divya, for making this possible. It's been almost a couple of weeks that I've been having these nervous 90s kind of a thing to get this started. So thanks a lot. So welcome everybody. This is the first of the series on uh, global mobility that I would like to have, trying to do a weekly show on the same day. The idea is that most of us Indians typically go to the West, and when you say West, it's mostly America and UK for all the opportunities, and we really don't know much about the other countries. So I have been a recruiter by profession, have been in it for close to 3 decades. Main motivation has been to help other people find their calling, and I've been fortunate over time to be connected to some of the finest recruiters across the world, and I'm part of a few network where I have over access to about 500 recruiters in close to 50 countries. So the whole idea is to kind of demystify this uh, opportunities now, especially now that we are a global world. And so today is the first uh, of the series, and we're going to talk about careers in Ireland. And so today we have two friends of mine who are very competent to help us guide those who want to know what they want to know. Dan is a recruiting professional. He's been in the industry for over 15 years. Has been in Ireland throughout and has worked with some of the big brands like Hayes. And now he's been running the Europe wing of a group of recruiters, over 50 recruiters across 40 countries. And I thought he has a great hands-on view to the kind of trends, etc. So he'll be talking to us. I also have invited Sakshi, who's a young girl compared to me and Dan. Sakshi is an Indian, and during a graduation, I think she did a internship in France, post which she's gone to Ireland for a master's. And last year and a half, she has moved away from being a student to be a employee, and so therefore would have first-hand experience about what it is to take a job in Ireland for an expat like us. So we have two wonderful competent professionals, and so I think I will open up the conversation for them. The format is that since we have 20 minutes, I'll have Dan and Sakshi speak for about 4 or 5 minutes, of course aided by questions from us, and then after which we'll open up questions for all of you. Really happy to see that we have some listeners interested in the topic. So over to you, Dan. Please take over from here.
Thanks, Achyut, and thanks, Divya, and hello to Sakshi there.
Dan?
Dan, you're not able. Yeah.
Yeah, very faint. We can hear you very faintly. Is it possible to? Are you on headphones by any chance?
Yeah, I'll take those off.
Let's try that because
Is that any
sometimes.
better?
Dan, try again.
Now, is that
Yes,
better,
it is.
folks?
Thank you.
Yeah, apologies for that. I paid for new headphones, which obviously don't work very well. So thanks for the introduction, Achyut, and delighted to be on the platform. As Achyut said, I'm based in Ireland, so I've been here my working life. I've worked in Europe, in Germany, and around mainland Europe, but mainly in my professional career, I've been based out of Ireland. I've been in professional services recruitment, we call it, for over 16 years. So I'm working with largely leading advisory firms, leading law firms, and leading global multinational clients. And I'd be delighted to talk for a few minutes about, I suppose, the landscape in Ireland from a jobs point of view, some of the requirements that employers look for, and maybe talk a little bit about the vacancy situation here. I'm sure the other guys are able to talk about the visa situation as well as I am, especially with first-hand knowledge. So I suppose in terms of the landscape here now, it's improving like a lot of the world with the COVID-19 supports that we have in place. And the vaccine rollout has been gaining pace over the last number of months. So the government here hopes to have over 70% vaccinated by the end of July. And that leads us into the COVID supports scheme, which they have in place. So they have COVID payments for individuals and businesses, and they're due to be phased out from September. So it's a little bit of a strange situation between now and September, because some people are on COVID supports and some people aren't. And do they come off the COVID support to look for work now? We are advising people to do exactly that, because if everybody waits until September onwards, it will be a big foot race for vacancies. The unemployment rate is about 5.6% officially, but it's obviously higher than that, taking into account a lot of people are on those COVID-19 supports. So when that ends, there will be a big spike in the unemployment rate, but the talk over here is that will also decrease rapidly within 6 to 12 months as jobs are filled. Some of the critical skills areas, I'm sure they're not unknown to people across the world, but some areas which are in demand are everywhere are the same here. So critical skills which are in demand are always seen favorably for visas and for employment permits. So those areas include scientific science professionals, so scientists and other professionals within the pharma, medical device sectors, biotechnology, engineering across all engineering areas, civil, etc. ICT professionals. Now we're largely looking at programmers of all types, right the way through to project managers and architects. And then the fourth main area, and there are other areas as well, obviously, but these are the four main ones, is healthcare. So everything from specialist consultants through to trained qualified doctors and specialist nurses are in demand as well. So any people with skills, with either a proven educational background and professional background in any of those areas is in with a strong chance of quickly securing an employment permit and then applying for an entry visa on the back of that. If anybody needs specific information, it's available online and I can share it after this. But there's a good website called citizensinformation.ie. That's citizensinformation.ie, and I can send that up afterwards. And, anybody outside of the European Union, we obviously have the complexity of being in the EU, must have a working visa. And to secure that working visa, they have to have an employment permit. And the best way to get said employment permit is to be in one of those critical skills categories if you don't have a spouse or family member here already. I'll allow our colleague here to talk about student visas and how that can translate into a full-time working visa as well. But hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavour. I suppose the trend in the last decade has certainly been towards international candidates. The track record here, we're a little bit behind other developed countries in Europe in that sense. And there are certainly massive shortages in the areas I've mentioned of science, engineering, ICT and healthcare. So I hope that's a little bit of a useful introduction. It's hard to kind of get into the nitty gritty without questions, but hopefully that's a good starting point.
Hey, thanks, Dan. Uh, yeah, Sakshi, could you then chip in? Uh, you walk the talk. Most of us from India aspire to go and do a master's, in Europe, and you've done that. So could you just give us some kind of an idea of your journey and uh, get us up to date about what's happening from your side?
Yeah, definitely. So again, just thank you all for inviting me. I really appreciate the opportunity. I think it's a great platform to share my experience and my journey. So I suppose, like mentioned before, I came to Ireland to finish my master's first. So I did my master's in human resource management, and then I secured a job with ICE Group here in Galway. Um, so the most important thing, I suppose, for Indian people looking to come here. So I'm just going to talk about my experience. So, like the way I came to the country was to first complete my education and then get a job. And in my opinion, that was a very positive experience. And the benefits to coming to Ireland, first of all, starting with that would be the first thing is the visa laws here are better. I wouldn't say better, but they're very easy to gauge. They're very easy to understand. Once you have a grip of what you're doing, it would be easier for you to get a work permit or a visa for Ireland. And the second, I suppose, which is a very, very important thing, is that it's an English speaking country, which is a big advantage for all the Indian students out there. If you were to go and look for a job somewhere else in Europe, it might be a little bit difficult just because you don't have the grasp of the language that would have been that would people speak in, say, for the likes of Germany or France or anything like that. So Ireland would be a great pick. Um, and then I suppose in terms of the industry, so personally, I would work very closely with the medical industry in Ireland, and I would be a part of a recruitment team for Boston Scientific. So just from my experience, that industry is extremely, extremely growing, and there's a high demand of people who have critical skills. And exactly like Dan mentioned, and I could not have said it better myself, anybody who has experience or education in the science background, engineering background, ICT, and things like that, I would highly recommend this country, and just to get an understanding of things and to get your foot in the door. Mm, another thing that I would like to mention for anybody who is looking to come to Ireland is Ireland, all the recruiters in Ireland are very open to people from any other countries. But I think the one thing that you can do yourself to tip the scales in your direction is have a good research done on how the visa processes works. Now, I'm not blaming anyone or anything, but like Dan mentioned, that Ireland is a little bit behind, and I suppose the reason for that is uh, people, let's just say the big companies, the big recruitment companies are aware of the visa laws. However, the smaller ones are possibly not completely aware of how the visa works, even the student visa. So it'd be a good option for you guys to make sure that you have all your research done. So when you're talking to a recruiter and they come back to you, it's like, oh, what is your visa situation? You would have a ton of research done, and you can actually play a part in educating those people. So it is very important to have all your research done, have your profile set, and just keep trying, I suppose. Thanks so much.
But this is Dan and Sakshi. That was super useful. I have a couple of questions, but before that, Arj, do you have anything to add or ask or anything? You can use the blue button to unmute yourself.
I'm actually completely new to this. I completed my education and I'm planning on flying to Ireland in the next 2 months. That's in August. So I'm definitely going to see Sakshi and Dan out there. But I think considering the amount of time we have, the insights that they both have provided are amazing. All I want to know from both of them, from a youngster like Sakshi and someone who's as experienced as Dan, and he is there in the field, how do you see this thing evolve in the next 3 years, considering there's a pandemic? I mean, in terms of how the whole job market out there, or even considering someone who takes education in Ireland and then gets into the job market, how do you see the whole thing evolve in the next 3 years? That's all I have to ask.
Yeah. I think it's a very good question. I think it's difficult to answer, but what I can certainly say is with absolute confidence is that there is a skills shortage here, and there will continue to be a skills shortage here. So there are opportunities here, but as Sachi very well put it very eloquently, you have to do your research. It's the same as going to any country for work. You've got to do your research on the various options on the visa side of things. So if you're coming as a student and you're doing a postgraduate degree, you can work up to 20 hours just on a visa sponsor or on a student sponsorship visa, and then you can apply a little bit more easily when you're in situ for when you finish that for a full-time stamp 1 visa, and eventually you're looking for a stamp 4, which is freedom of movement, and you don't have to be sponsored by anybody from a company. So short answer is there will be huge opportunities, but it's only the candidates that tick the boxes that will get approved and will get the required visas. And to do that, as Sakshi very well put very well, you've got to do your research. You have to have the strong communication skills, which is the language skills, which Sakshi mentioned, but also you've got to have the strong academic record and know the areas that you're targeting and the clients in turn that you're targeting. So you can combine working with one or two specialist recruiters here on the ground, along with some direct applications yourself, of course. So hopefully that helps, Arj.
Yeah, that definitely helps, Dan. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much.
Guys, there's also a couple of questions on the listeners chat. So Swarali says, any opportunities for business psychologist roles in England with a degree from UK, right? And that's also linked to the question that I had about, how, and Sakshi kind of talked about it, that it would stand you in better stead from a visa perspective to have a master's degree from Ireland, but what about the rest of UK? And how does that compare to getting a master's in India and then deciding you want to migrate and work somewhere over there, right?
Yeah, I can take that question. It's a great question, and I think it's a very common question among students. So, if anybody has done a degree from a particular country, and for the likes of UK, so the recent law change in UK around the visas and student visa. So before, I'd say 2 years ago, or maybe a year ago, the laws were basically you do your masters for a year and you have 4 months to find a job. But now that has changed. So UK now has similar laws as Ireland. So if you finish your master's, so it's a level 9. That's what we call it here. So if you finish your level 9, you get a 2-year extension on your visa. So you could work on a student visa. So it's a graduate visa. It's what it's called for 2 years. And there's a similar situation in UK now. So if you have done your master's recently in UK and you're looking for a job, you won't have to worry about the visa straight away. And I suppose in my experience, I've worked with the same company for 2 years and they were more than happy to sponsor me, because if you put in the work and if you do your work and if you do the work that you were hired for, I don't think any company would be hesitant to hire you. And again, a degree like psychologist, now again, I don't know if it's a critical skills. It falls as of now under critical skills or not. But again, I'd say it's a healthcare sector and there is always a shortage of people and talent in healthcare sector, especially in Ireland. So I hope I answered your question a little bit anyway.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sakshi. Dan, did you have anything to add?
Well, again, very well put, Sakshi. Of course, you've come through a situation where you've done your postgraduate yourself, and you're absolutely right. Once you do it here in the country, not only do you get the extension to work thereafter, so hopefully it's a little bit smoother, but also I suppose from a cultural point of view, it's very well received that you've done your postgrad here, and you've been in situ for a year or maybe more, 1 to 2 years, and you know it shows a commitment, and it shows that you've been working, you've been working hard from an academic point of view in the country. So it's I think it's a bonus on all fronts. It's a bonus to getting the extension on the visa. It's a bonus because you've been here and seen the culture, and you know potentially even improved language skills in that year, but you've certainly improved your own standing from an academic record point of view. So I think it's a tick, 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 for potential employers. And I know I see Colin there had mentioned, sorry, I don't see how I can answer in the text bar, but because I'm new to this myself, but in terms of some negatives, look, there will always be challenges. Costs of education can be quite high here in Ireland compared to other parts of the world. That's true, certainly for some third levels. The ideal situation is if you go on and do further studies, whether it be in accountancy and finance, where I'm very familiar, for example, you will be sponsored for that. So hopefully that doesn't become a cost issue. Language skills are important. If anybody comes with more than one language skill, apart from English, it's well received. That's across the European languages and further afield. And then other challenges, it's like breaking into a new market. So if you think of it like that, if you've been working in, say, technology for 5 years and you want to change into a scientific field, and you've done in the background a scientific degree, or you have a relevant qualification, just making that first move is always challenging. And that's how I tell people to think about a move, from one country to another, or one part of the world to another, as I've seen it. It is a challenge. It's not easy. And, the more research you do, as Sakshi said originally, the better.
That was really, really helpful, Dan and Sakshi. Thank you so much. I hope Swarali and Colin, that helped you guys. Dan and Sakshi, can you tell us a little bit about the culture, the work culture especially, because this is something that also differs from country to country, right? Because, places like the US and India have very, very different working cultures, and the UK has a completely distinct one, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the work culture in Ireland? That might be.
I can start with that, because I suppose coming from India, and I've worked in India a little bit, and then
Yeah.
I've worked here for a year and a half. I suppose it's been tremendous. Like the difference between both the countries is just so much. It's like north and south type of situation. Here there is more focus on work-life balance, and I have been fortunate enough to be employed by a company who has a 4-day week policy. So as you can see, we work 4 days and there's a 3-day weekend, and you
Oh
get
my.
to have life. Yeah, I mean that's a massive
Hey,
plus for
Sakshi,
anybody coming from India.
Achut here. Do you think I can have a job there? Do you think I
Oh,
can do a job?
definitely.
4-day week is amazing.
Love to
Thank
have
you.
you. We'd love to have an experienced recruiter on board. I don't think that should be a problem. I think yeah, so just the work-life balance is great, and which makes the culture around the company and across Ireland. I have friends, so many other friends who've been working for other companies, and everybody has a life after work. So if you're supposed to finish at 5:30, you finish at 5:30 and you go out, and you cannot miss the Irish scenery. It's just beautiful. You want to go out. So I think it's great. And if anybody is looking to move from India to Ireland, it's a massive, massive plus.
Thank you so much, Sakshi. Dan, do you want to jump in? We only have 50 seconds to go, so it'll be quick.
Yeah, sure. No, it's exactly as Sakshi says. There is a work-life balance here. There always has been. Legislation is coming in to improve that, whether it be sick pay, parental leave, for both parents. So the legislation is starting to strengthen there as well. But there's a balance here. There's, most people, if you're working Monday to Friday, you're not asked, or even, it doesn't even cross people's minds to be working on weekends, or, there might be deadlines where you might have to work late periodically, but that's about as far as it goes. So from that point of
Awesome.
view,
Thank you so much. Achut, do you want to close?
No, fair enough. I mean, I think it was splendid. I'm very happy with the way we discussed. I'm sure all the people are
Super
available
helpful.
online.
Thank you.
So
Super helpful.
stay in touch. Thank